Hey everybody, welcome to Grimm's Forge Gaming. Today we are going to do a quick update video. It's probably been about 3 or 4 months since I've done a video for my Magicka Sorcerer Storm Atronach. And we're going to jump right into the build and I will show you what we're running and why. So first thing we're running is going to be two-piece slime craw, and I haven't even changed the traits on these yet, but we will eventually. It's no big deal. But anyways, we're running two-piece slime craw so we can get the minor berserk at all times, 8% damage bonus. And our second set, this is where we throw people a little bit of a curveball. Our second set is going to be Twiceborn Star. And I can tell you this, Twiceborn Star on a magic sorcerer, when you're allowed to have 2 Mundus stones, that gives you a lot of flexibility with a build, okay? And the 2 particular Mundus stones that we are running on this are going to be spell damage and magic recovery. And this is unbuffed right now, but when you look at it in Imperial City, CP Imperial City, we are a sorcerer with 27k health, 35,000 max Magicka, and 18k stamina. So we can play this build like a very aggressive dodge rolling, or athletic, I should say. Not we could be aggressive too, but a very athletic dodge rolly, tanky type sorcerer that does a lot of damage. And anyways, we'll jump back into this stuff and we'll look at it when it is buffed up. So Twiceborn Star, I'm a big fan of that, and we have prismatic enchants on all of our gear. And the second set that we are running is the Phoenix set. And anyways, going back real quick, your Twiceborn Star is a craftable set. Okay, so that's important to know. You can actually craft your setup the exact way that you want it by having that. And you know, as an example, I'm using an Inferno staff of Twiceborn Star and a Resto staff, and I can put the exact traits on those I want. I don't have to farm anything, and that's really nice. To be able to do that. So anyways, going forward again to the Phoenix set. I like the Phoenix set. You get a line of max Magicka, you get a line of magic recovery, and you get spell damage out of it. So those are all pluses. And then the 5-piece, when you drop below 25% health, gain a damage shield that absorbs 15,000 damage for 6 seconds and deals 11,000 flame damage to nearby enemies. So what this does is this proc set gives me a safety net. If I'm caught out of position or if I'm caught off guard, so Nightblade jumps on me and tries to gank me, they will trigger this shield and it gives me an additional window for counterplay. And if you look at it, this effect can occur once every minute. So the cooldown on this gear set is fairly low. Like if I trigger this armor set, then I know for the next minute I need to you know, mind my P's and Q's, but then after that minute I have another safety net. And so that's been really nice to have that safety net. Now I can tell you this, if I'm in extreme outnumbered situations, this build, by the way, can 1vx no problem, and I'll get you guys some video footage of that. I've been I've taken this back off the shelf and dusted it off and been running around with it and just murdering everyone in sight. But we're going to get some video footage put together of the build in action for you, and we do have some changes since the last time I did a build video on this about 3 months ago. But anyways, this can 1vx very easily. It's a very powerful build, and yeah, so Twiceborn Star and the Phoenix set. But if you're running it regularly and outnumbered situations, you're going to want to sub out your Phoenix set here, and you're going to want to put in Vicious Death. And I would also move off of your Flame Staff and go with a Frost Staff. And the reason being is because the Frost Staff, if we're doing outnumbered situations, we're going to run with a different ultimate. We're going to run with the Destro staff ultimate. And anyways, the Frost version of this ultimate, Elemental Rage, applies a very, very heavy immobilization. You can see right down there at the bottom. Ice Rage immobilization immobilizes enemies hit for 3 seconds. And I've dumped that Icy Rage on like 20 people, 30 people, and killed all of them before. No joke. And all you do is you drop that ultimate on them and then streak through them, and so now they're having to break free of the hard CC, and then they're immobilized, and then they're having to break free of that. And in the really sweaty fights, they might not have enough stamina to break free of both of those, which is most likely what happened in that fight where we just had mass murder. But anyways, Ice Staff is really nice for PvP and outnumbered situations, and I definitely think you guys need to look at that. And the Vicious Death situation, so when we drop that on the group, you think just one person dies, and then they explode for 20,000 or 24,000 flame damage around them, and it was just a chain reaction. My Destro ult pounding on them. Streak hits them, has some damage to it. They don't have enough stamina to break free and dodge roll out of it, and they're killing each other. So that is my Zerg Buster option for this build, is definitely running an Ice Staff with Elemental Rage. Another thing too that you can do is in the assault line, inevitable detonation. And I still need to level this up, but when you're defending keeps or taking keeps and you're in outnumbered situations, or there's a ball group, a Zerg moving around and they're really tight together, just throw inevitable detonation. Select a lower health target, tab target them, and put inevitable detonation on them, and curse an enemy with a magical bomb that explodes after 4 seconds, dealing unbuffed 7,000 magic damage to all enemies in the area. If the bomb is dispelled or removed early, the explosion triggers immediately. Each enemy within the bomb's radius increases the damage done by 25%. And so the nice little combo is actually drop a Destro ult, a Frost Destro ult with your Vicious Death in the place of Phoenix. Drop that Frost on a group after you hit someone with inevitable detonation, streak through them, and all the chaos that you cause. They got to break free of that hard CC, they got to break free of the immobilization, and if that person cleanses himself to get the bomb off of themselves, they're going to blow up prematurely and in turn kill everyone around them. And so that is the Zerg Buster version of this. Sub out Phoenix, put in Vicious Death, run inevitable detonation and the Frost Staff ultimate, and you will kill tons of people. Anyways, we've looked at the armor sets. Let's look at the unbuffed abilities right now. I'm running Crushing Shock. You can run the other morph to this. It does have a little bit more damage on this, but unbuffed, you can see I'm at 2,900 damage, and this thing hits 3 times. So 2,900, 2,900, 2,900, and all 3 of those lines, those attacks have a chance to crit individually. So if they all crit, it is a lot of damage. And so typically what I like to do is wind up a heavy attack into a Crushing Shock, and in that moment you'll see all three lines, elemental lines of Crushing Shock hit the target, you'll see my heavy attack hit the target, and you'll see my weapon enchant hit the target. And so that person just blows up with damage, just boom, 5 levels of damage on them. Now if I time that properly, before I wind up my heavy attack Crushing Shock, I'll put a Haunting Curse on them. And unbuffed, you can see my Haunting Curse is going to deal 12,000 damage to that target, and it's going to do splash damage of 5,400 to everyone around them. And so this is another nice little assistance on my Zerg Buster. So when I throw inevitable detonation and curse somebody in a group, there's just a lot of additional damage going out to that group. But this thing blows up twice, for 12,000 damage, and if I can put this on them, and I'll put Endless Fury on them, which if the enemy falls to or below 20% health within 4 seconds of being struck, an explosion deals an additional 13,000 shock damage to them and 2,700 shock damage to everyone around them. And that's the common play, or how to line up your burst. As a Magicka sorcerer, you're going to hit curse on somebody, and you know that I've got 3.5 seconds before that blows up. I'm going to get Endless Fury on them, and then I'm going to wind up a heavy attack Crushing Shock combo, and hopefully what happens is it takes them below the 20% threshold, and then Endless Fury executes them. And I do have a lot of BG footage of me just That's not one-shotting them, but basically lining up all of that and it happening exactly that way. So they're 100% health, they're coming in to fight me, and I just hit them with that, wind up a heavy attack, crushing shock. And another nice thing about the crushing shock is enemies hit while casting are interrupted and set off balance and stunned for 3 seconds. And so, if somebody's doing any type of channeled effect or something that can be interruptible, this is going to interrupt them and set them off balance, and I can do more damage to them. But the other nice thing about using Crushing Shock as your primary spammable is just this ability right here has 3 chances to proc your Crystal Frags, and your Crystal Frags is kind of your big boy damage. I try not to hard cast this. Hard casting it would be, I'm just going to cast it right now. I want to wait to the second line. Casting any magic ability has a 35% chance of causing your next crystal frag to be instant, dealing 33% more damage and costing 50% less. And so what I do is I basically only try and cast crystal frags when that proc is up, and it's going to deal 33% more damage than 13,000. So do the math on that one, but it's going to be a very heavy hitting, and this is unbuffed by the way too. So let's say it gets up to 15k. That's a pretty big hit. And so anyways, this comes into play if I go through my regular rotation on somebody, and at any moment this procs, we're sending it, we're letting it loose, frag off or frag out. So anyways, this setup for me has been working really well. We're running Hardening Ward on our offensive bar too, because I do have some passive heals coming in with the way we run this class. When you hit an enemy with a direct applied dark magic ability, you heal for 2,700. And then we also have Crit Surge, and I just recently switched this from the other one. For the longest time I'd had it on the other one. But anyways, Crit Surge is going to heal me when you deal critical damage. You heal for 3,000 health. So basically I got 5,000 heals coming in when I do crit damage, right? So 5,000 heals when I'm doing crit damage, and I do a lot of crit damage. I crit often, so I can stay on my offensive bar, and I just need to shield myself. I don't even need to really go to my back bar unless it's to make other plays, right? So having a shield on my front bar has really paid off well. And the ultimate that we are running is Energy Overload, and this thing's really nice. I like running Energy Overload because of the top ability. Charge your fists with the power of the storm, replacing your light and heavy attacks with new, stronger abilities. Each attack restores 1,100 Magicka. And so if I go completely which I rarely do now on this build, but if I were to, and maybe for that reason I need to switch this out, but thinking about it, but if I do go completely in a fight, because this ultimate is only 21 ultimate, there's a high likelihood that I have this available to me. And I can just squeeze off a couple rounds of this, and it's going to hit them hard. It's 12,000 damage unbuffed for a light attack. And I can tell you can put a lot of damage into somebody very quickly with this. And so looking at the back bar, I have Streak. This is my hard CC, does some damage as well, 5,600 damage when I streak through them unbuffed. And like I said, I'll use Streak offensively just as much as defensively. There are times where I need to create space to use Streak, and I'll use Streak. I can basically use Streak almost endlessly on this build. That's a common thing with a lot of sorcerers. They've got maybe 2 streaks in them, 3 streaks, maybe 4 streaks, and now we're hurting for Magicka. But the current way I have this build set up, I can streak almost endlessly, and so I can create a lot of space. Like I said, we're running Crit Surge. Not sure why I had the other more for the longest time since I created a Sorcerer, but we did. And so we switched this over, and I think somebody helped point that out to me that I was running with, and I had no answer for it, why I was running it. I think I just started with it years and years and years ago and just stuck with it. We're running Boundless Storm. This is our our armor, our major resolve, and so this is our armor buff, and I find myself using this a lot for the major expedition. So you get that additional 30% movement speed over 4 seconds, and so between major expedition with this and streak, we obviously everyone knows how mobile sorcerers are, and so that is a great combo. I find myself using this pretty regularly though to speed around. On my back bar, I have Harness Magicka, and it's an okay size damage shield. I'll show you guys here in a second, but basically I shield stack in real times of trouble. If I'm fighting on my offensive bar and somebody puts just a metric ton of damage into me, I mean, I do have 27k health in PvP, but if somebody puts a ton of damage and say they proc my Phoenix set and we hit panic mode, I'll hit this shield and I'll hit this shield, and now I'm on my back bar, so I can actually counterplay the damage that they put in. But when you hit both those shields, you can see my health is covered up almost half, and we're just below 30k health, so we probably got 15k worth of shields there, and that's not too bad. 15k worth of shields, and I purposely have my shields on the number 4 ability slot, so that way no matter which bar I'm on, I can always hit my shields, right? So, anyways, and I think that's a pretty smart play considering the performance issues right now. We're not sure which bar we're going to end up getting stuck on in the heat of the moment, right? So if you've got a shield at your disposal, no matter what bar you're on, it's better than not. And I just recently added Dark Conversion to the build, and to be 100% honest, it was after I was watching Malcolm play his Sorcerer, and it made a lot of sense. I was struggling I was 1vxing, but struggling with even when I'm 1vxing or I was in outnumbered situations, I was running rapid regen from the Resto alt line. And there were times, and I have BG footage of this too. I'm in very low health, and I throw up a rapid regen, and the thing flies 28 meters to a teammate and starts healing them. And I'm like, really? And then I throw it up again, and it flies 28 meters to another friend and starts healing them. And I didn't get the heal, and so that was kind of a problem. And so I told myself, well, if that becomes a reoccurring issue where this thing is not helping me in situations, then I'm going to switch this out. Now, the important thing to know about Dark Conversion is, do you have an endless supply of Magicka? Yes. I mean, on this build, I have 18k stamina, so I can dodge roll, break free, do everything, and I still have this. And we're still leveling this up, you can see, because of the change, but bargain with darkness to restore 8,000 health and 3,600 Magicka instantly, and an additional 2,400 Magicka over 20 seconds. And I can hit this a lot. It only cost me 2,000 stamina, right? And then the other move that we made, and this was actually because of Malcolm 2, and we're still leveling this up, is adding the Resto staff ultimate for a heal. This is nice, but if because it has a 1 second cast time, unless I'm CC immune or I've created space, right? If I'm CC immune, I can stand basically right in front of them and I can cast this, and they're not going to be able to interrupt me, and I'll be able to get 2 of these off, and we're back in the fight, right? It's always easy. Maybe I hit one, I'm CC immune, they CC'd me, I break free, I hit this, and it gives me enough room to streak away, right? I get away, create some distance, and then I can hit 2 or 3 of these, and boom, we're back in the fight. But you have to use this smart, okay? Because if you're stunned while you're doing this, and it'll set you off balance, and then you're taking more damage, which is counterintuitive or counterproductive to what you're trying to do, right? Stay alive and kill people. So, anyways, the heal from this was pretty reliable too. A lot better than the situation I said where I was doing rapid regen, which is a lot of health. It's probably double the amount of health when it works properly over like 4 seconds. That's another thing too, is so you get 16k health or 20k health, whatever it is, over 4 seconds. It's a hot, right? This takes 1 second and then you get 8,000 health. And so, I like that. Yeah, you got to know how to use it properly, right? But between with my only healing ability, right? This was my only heal coming in, aside from what we said, which was the passive blood magic, and we have that 5k heals coming in that we talked about. If that's not enough healing, what are we going to do? And Malcolm described it as tanking down. As a MagSorc, we're going to tank down right now. We're taking a lot of pressure, and so I'm going to hit this, and I'm going to run with Life Giver, and that's going to give me a lot of other pluses to the build. I'm going to get regen, a shield, and some other things as well. So, but anyways, we'll run with Life Giver on this, and the ultimate on it is very low. So I'll have this up often because we have no problem at all killing people with just our regular rotation. I don't really need to ever use energy overload, right, to take people out. So I end up finding myself at 500 ultimate a lot on this build. So anyways, this is going to be available all the time. It'll allow me to tank down, and at 27k health on a sorcerer that can shield stack, and we're mobile, and we have an endless supply of resources for the most part. I am really liking this build. So anyways, let's look at the build buffed up. We're going to talk about CP, and then we are done. So looking at the build buffed up. First, we're going to look at our spell damage. We do have an infused spell damage glyph on the back bar. Look at our spell resistance, 21,000. Physical resistance. We are a beefy sorcerer, right? We can hit 35,000 spell damage on this, no problem. I could actually hit 4K on this. Recoveries 2,000, 1,277. 7,000 or 777, sorry. And so 2,000 magic recovery is super nice on this. The health recovery is very nice on this. And then we already talked about our max Magicka being at 35,000, our max health being at 27,000, and our max stamina at 18,000 health. I'm telling you, I've tried a lot of builds. Like, you could run, I think our typical sorcerer builds right now are going to be Crafty Elfique and Bright Throat's Boast. That's a regular combo you see, or one of those with New Moon, or whatever options that you're running. And I've tried it all on my sorcerer, and this build, man, it hits hard. And anyways, we've got spell penetration of 7,200, and we could get more penetration if we wanted to. I could put more into CP, or um, I could change one of my Mundus stones to the Lover, and we'll hit the 10k penetration mark when we do that. But I have no problem killing people with this build. Crit resistance right now is at 2,200, and I haven't really noticed because we can shield stack and we're pretty beefy when we're buffed up. It's been no problem. So let's look at our abilities here. Crushing Shocks, 3,100, and it's going to hit 3 times. Each one of those has a chance to crit, but that's 9k right there on a primary spammable, so that's pretty nice. 14,000 on our frag, 13,000 on our Haunting Curse, going to hit them twice, and 4,000 on our Endless Fury. We've got 13,000 on our Energy Overload, and at 21 ultimate, and if I saved up to 500 ultimate, um, we're going to turn out a lot of damage very quickly with that. And jumping on our back bar here real quick, our streak's going to do 6k damage and be our reliable hard CC for them. And dark conversion, we've already looked at that, and we're still leveling our Resto ult, but when you look at that, that's 8,500 health every 1 second for 5 seconds. That's pretty beefy of a heal, and we're going to go with Life Giver, and there's going to be all kinds of extra perks for that. So let's jump into the CP here. And I do want to thank actually one of my subscribers. They actually pointed out my CP allotment. And for me, I like to set a hard cap of 60, and I hadn't put any much thought into it beyond that. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do 60 because it's starting to get really expensive. And that's that. But they said, hey, like if you drop one more point, like I had 60 on this, it will get you over the 21%. So you're not actually losing like 2 or 3 points here or there. And so basically, he just helped clean up or optimize my CP allotment. I wanted to thank him a lot for that. But, anyways, 60 or near there is my hard cap. I don't like to go over it because of diminishing returns or diminishing gains. Um, but here we are. So Elfborn, we've got 21% into critical damage done, which is great because we crit often. And we are running Elemental Expert, and we have 59 points into that, which takes us to 12 and a half damage. This is one of those things where you just don't have enough points to do that. I'd have to come off some spell erosion to put an extra couple points in there. Maybe I do that, but I like our penetration where it's at. So here we are at Staff Expert, and you see we put an extra 3 points in there. It got us to 30%. So increase your damage done with light and heavy attacks with the Destruction Staff, which is good because our primary spammable, like I said, is a wind up a heavy attack, animation cancel it with a Crushing Shock, and it's a whole lot of damage going out. And so our light and heavy attacks are doing 30% additional damage. Master at Arms, because increase your direct damage done by 21%, which is great because almost everything in our current kit is direct damage. There's nothing that is considered a damage over time. So nothing in the ritual. We've got 61 into Ironclad. All of the biggest hitting abilities in the game are going to be considered direct damage, and so we're going to cut that direct damage by 21%. And we've got 49 points into Spell Shield, so this is one of those things that makes us feel extra beefy as a sorcerer because we have an extra 3,900 spell resistance. We have 40 points into light armor focus, and that's going to increase our physical resistance by 3,300. And this is one of those situations, I've explained it in my other videos, but every time I just go through and explain CP, I explain a lot of people are running Hardy and a lot of people are running Elemental Defender. And kind of an example is if I were to put points into Hardy, and let's say I get it up to 10%. Your damage taken by a physical poison or disease damage is reduced by 10%. And let's say I have a disease damage coming in that's 10,000 damage. 10% is going to reduce that incoming damage by 1,000 points, right? Instead of doing that, I'd rather just put points into light armor focus and get an additional 3,400 physical resistance, right? I want to push max stats. And so that's just my thought process on it, and that's what we've been doing. And so everybody says, man, I don't know how you get the resistances you do or the stats you do on your builds. This is part of it. I don't put points into Hardy or Elemental Defender unless there are a couple extra points here or there. Whatever armor I'm running, I hit the focus on that, and I always hit Spell Shield and Ironclad, and that's going to give you a very beefy, tanky type player. So we are running Bastion, and we have that one extra point over my 60, and that gets us to 21%. So our damage shields are going to be 21% bigger, and we are running 56 into Quick Recovery. So the healing that we are going to receive is increased by 12%. And then I had a couple extra points, which we put into light and heavy attacks. And so that got us our 120, so we could get up here. Moving over to the tower, we've got 61 points into break free. We are going to be CC'd and we will need to break free. And so you're going to need those points on just about everything. And we've got 64 points into Arcanist, so our magic recoveries increased by 13%, 49 points into Mooncalf, and so our stamina recoveries increased by 11%. And I think that's part of the thing that makes us a very athletic or agile sorcerer. We have access to Major Expedition, we have access to Shriek, and we can dodge roll at the end of the day to avoid incoming damage. And we can dodge roll twice and then streak 8 times. And um, anyways, I like being an athletic sorcerer. I have 56 points into tenacity, and that increases your magic recovery from a fully charged heavy attack, which I think is important because I said our primary spammable or opener as a wind up a heavy attack to a crushing shock, and so we can almost offset the crushing shock cost with additional tenacity, right? So, and we've got a couple extra points into health recovery, so increase our health recovery by 7.5%. And I have a couple points into tumbling. We do dodge roll from time to time, and I was a little torn between putting points in here and putting points into tumbling, and so we just did both. And maybe I clean that up, optimize it, but that is the CP, that is the build. And going into it again, just a couple things to switch out. Um, so like I said, you'll want to use Inevitable Detonation on group play. I think that you run um, Vicious Death and then switch these two pieces out. So I would switch my belt and my shoes and then run Vicious Death. And you can, whatever you have your Vicious Death set in, um, to make both Twiceborn Star and Vicious Death work. By keeping Twiceborn Star, I'm going to keep my stats, right, for the most part. I'm going to keep the health and the stamina and everything where I want, and I'm going to have both Mundus Stones at my availability. And maybe I come off of the spell damage Mundus Stone and I go to the Lover, or maybe I come off the magic recovery and I go to the Lover and keep the spell damage. It gives me some flexibility, but it allows me to be a very beefy sorcerer. And I like that a lot in outnumbered situations, especially when you have things like Take Flight going through block and all mitigations from time to time. Like 50% of the time, Take Flight is going to desync you or hit you super hard right now. And so I think we need that extra line of security. For the most part, when I'm just kind of tooling around Cyrodiil or whatever, Imperial City or BGs, I'll run Phoenix. There's especially no reason to run Vicious Death when you're running BGs. Phoenix is the way to go for sure. And like I said, I don't have a problem killing people at between 3,000 and 4,000 spell damage at all, especially the way the burst lines up on a sorcerer, and I think everybody should know that to be true at this point. But those are some key points. You want a Zerg busting build, throw Vicious Death on here, drop Inevitable Detonation on your bar. Make sure that, and drop the Destro staff, Icy Rage, because you'll want to run an Ice staff for outnumbered situations. And you'll just drop Icy Rage on a group, and Icy Rage will do an immobilization, and it hits for 75. It's probably 85 or 9k every second for 7 seconds. It's just a ton of damage. But after you drop Icy Rage Streak through them, it makes them have to break the hard CC and then break the immobilization. And by that moment, hopefully, your inevitable detonation is exploding, and then there's a chain reaction with Vicious Death, and everybody's killing each other. And so I don't have a problem 1vxing on this build and fighting in really sweaty fights with this. We have the health, we have the stamina, and we have the sustain. So that's a build, everybody. Be safe out there. Thanks.